With National Suicide Prevention Month being on September next month, we thought we would just try to talk about some strategies that we can help parents to use and adolescents who may be experiencing um, depression. And you said something that has stuck with me from the first conversation we had. And that is, you said depression does not have a look. You cannot tell if someone is depressed. I don't know if you realize how powerful that statement is. So tell me a little bit about what you meant when you made that statement, Jason.
Prior to my son's passing, I would have looked at my son and his physical appearance and the love he had from others, and just how strappingly handsome and well-rounded he was,
And he was.
and said that there's no way that this kid is going through anything on the outside looking in. And Courtney and I would often get that when we would share our stories with close friends and family, or people who were going through the things that we went through with Jeremiah in regards to his behavior as an adolescent and growing into his teenage years. When we would tell people the things that we had to go through in regards to his behavior and him being depressed and the anger issues that he carried, they would look at us like we had pie on our face because of his physical appearance and how he carried himself, but not knowing that deep down inside he just wasn't happy. And in the passing, of him and him taking his own life, it has completely changed my perspective on that. You can look at someone who dresses well and carry themselves stellar, but it's just a facade. So when I made that comment, it was more of, you can't tell what someone is going through by looking at them, and I was judgmental before the situation with my son.
Yeah. It's so important. Again, you cannot repeat that statement often enough for parents who may have a child at home right now who's experiencing depression. I've heard parents say, even to the therapist, when they come in for mental health services at Our Children, Our Future, where we provide all of the behavioral health services, and they would say, Miss James, he's just lazy. That's how they put it. He's just lazy. And we would spend a lot of time explaining to them what depression, well, he doesn't want to leave his room. He doesn't want to do anything. His room is a mess. He's just lazy. And I really want you to talk to any parent who has a child. I mean, I know you said it before, but we just can't say it enough, because especially boys, it's okay for girls. Girls tend to get a little more of that nurturing and attention when they're not feeling well.
Right.
But boys, and particularly for me, Jason, African American men were so socialized not to show your feelings that many carry severe depression and will not seek help. What can you say to them?
Educate yourselves. Look for the signs. If I had a crystal ball and can go back, all of the red flags and signs, were there. I don't know about any other family who has gone through what Courtney and I have gone through, but the most painful part of this healing process for me is knowing that the signs were there and not taking full advantage of the resources that were out there to help. Thinking that we can just parent ourselves through it. Don't do that. It doesn't work. You need, if therapy is necessary, don't recognize behavioral patterns of a suicidal child and think that you can parent yourself out of it, because you can't. If you aren't educated on that, don't try, because you're playing with someone's life. And that's probably the hardest part of this entire ordeal for me, is that recognizing the issue and waiting for it to go away, maybe.
Yes, you're
Um,
making a lot. Believe me, that's exactly what I want to hear you say to
yeah.
parents who are listening to this.
And you that depressed child or adult will have good and bad days. And when you see those good days, you forget that the mental illness is still there. And you can't parent a child with some sort of mental illness like you do a child that doesn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember that they're acting out and behaving that way in a way that they can't control. Because if they could control it, they wouldn't have a mental problem. And I think that I kick myself a lot for that.
Now, at the time you were going through it, you didn't have, they said hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
But at the time you were going through it, you didn't know.
No, we did. That's not true. We
Tell
did.
me more.
We've been dealing. We dealt with the tendencies and the red flags and the behavioral problems and the talks of suicide from 8. Jeremiah spent times in mental facilities in 3 different states, out of our home for a combination altogether of over a year.
Mm-hmm.
3 months here, 2 months there, 4 months here, trying to figure out the issue, and he would be sent to these places because of wanting to harm himself, or
Mm-hmm.
saying that
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to harm his sibling.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like we were voluntarily sending our child away, but we had to take the necessary precautions to keep the children in our home safe
Safe.
as well. So it's not like this was something that was just sprung on us. But in our defense, those early years behavior from 8, 9, and 10, some
Mm-hmm.
parts of 11 years old, went away. I mean, this kid flicked the switch from 13, 14, 15, 16, were some of the greatest years with Jeremiah, to where Courtney and I probably got used to that behavior and forgot about the earlier years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I meant by earlier,
Got you.
kicking myself for not recognizing what was still there, because I was blinded by the behavior switch.
Well, I don't know if you were blinded, you were hopeful.
Yeah, we were hopeful, but Veronica, it really changed. It
Mm-hmm.
really did. And I think that, him taking his life at 18
Mm-hmm.
was hurts so much more. Not that the
Yeah.
pain would have been less,
Yes.
because we saw prosperity. We saw a change. He
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that suicidal
Mm-hmm.
8-year-old kid. He wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
His life was in front of him. He communicated better. He
Mm-hmm.
was more loving, and
Mm-hmm.
he was flourishing in his sports. So I think that behavior blinded Courtney and I.
Mm-hmm.
It really did. The temper tantrums went away. He learned how to deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
and us as parents
Mm-hmm.
let the past go, and we should
Mm-hmm.
not have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think therapy should have stopped.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. And again, I thank you so much, Jason, for coming and sharing this. You probably have little idea how powerful what you're saying is and how helpful this can be to so many, and again, for me, particularly African American families.
Mm-hmm.
because we tend to minimize these behaviors in our children. And we often don't trust the mental health system, probably for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important that we find someone in the system that we can trust for the sake of the lives of our children. And so I hear you, and I know many adult men who will bring their children to therapy and won't bring them back after 2 or 3 sessions.
Mm.
I know many adult fathers who fight with the mothers of their children who are seeking these mental health services for their sons. And they say there's nothing wrong with him,
Right.
that a good beating won't help, that, whatever. So they tend to punish the behavior rather than treating it.
Mm.
And so I would like you to talk to those men, those fathers, as a father. Help them, give them some understanding of the importance of being in a place where they can help their children and not look at it as they're crazy, they're sick, but really help them because their lives could be in those fathers' hands.
Yeah, once again, I piggyback on it. Like, to all the dads out there, take it serious. It isn't an embarrassment. And I think that in, when it comes to Courtney and I and Jeremiah, that we never stumbled down that road. Like, we were very open in regards to what our issues were with Jeremiah and issues that we had within ourselves. And I think that I would talk to the dads, and I would also say that not only get counseling for your child, but for yourself as well
I
on how
agree.
to parent
I agree.
a child with a disability. And disability doesn't mean mental retardation or loss of a limb. Um, Disability is, mental illness is a blind disability,
Mhm.
if I may say, and there isn't any braille or walking stick that you can use outside of counseling.
Thank you.
Um, and I think that, speaking to the dads, get counseling for yourself too on how to parent.
Yeah.
Um, Courtney and I were going figuring it out as we went, and some of the issues we went through with Jeremiah, or the average person wouldn't even believe it,
Yeah.
especially if you were like me 10 years ago and were judgmental.
Mhm.
Like, we would walk into a place with Jeremiah and would see old friends, and I mean, this kid missed 3 birthdays,
Mm.
no birthday,
Mm.
no gifts,
Mm.
no party, because of behavioral issues. I mean, these are some of the things that we went through. So embarrassment isn't there. Get help, get therapy, because you said something to me earlier that this is a lifelong sentence for the living, for the ones that have to deal with the mourning. It doesn't go away for us. You know, the pain and suffering is over for the child or the adult that takes their life, but for the parent and the siblings and the family members, it's a lifelong sentence. And this is a sentence you don't want to go through when you can nip it in the bud with something like therapy and counseling and somebody that's educated to tell you how to handle what you're going through. You don't get an instruction manual when they give you your baby at the hospital. You don't. Take it serious. It's If I could go back and do things different, man, oh Lord, I would. That's what I would
Just
tell
for
people.
the sake of some of the men who will be watching this, so they can have a little bit of background, tell them a little bit about who you are, Jason, and what you've done.
Uh, I'm from South Central Los Angeles. I grew up in a middle class household. Um, I was a 5-star athlete coming out of Los Angeles. I went to the University of California at Berkeley. Um, Came out, got there in '94. I left Berkeley in 1998. I chased a professional football career for 4 years of my life. I never was ultimately the NFL superstar, but I traveled, with a couple of teams and, kicked my way around and made a little bit of money doing that. I've been a business owner my entire life. I've never really known how to work for anybody.
Mhm.
Uh, I ran two mortgage firms for 10 years. Um, I do sports fitness now, personal train. I do property management. So, I do a lot of things. I coach football. I give back to the community.
Mhm.
Um, I have ooh, maybe 10 or 11 kids that are playing Division I football in major colleges right now.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you,
wonderful.
who I've mentored and coached.
Wonderful.
And my son was one of those kids.
Yes.
Um, so that's what I'm doing right now. That's who I am. We
Well,
started a youth football league here in Las Vegas in 2010, and we had 2,000 children our first season, which is how I met Lawrence.
mhm.
Um, and I've always been the type to try to give back and give kids who come from where I come from a way out. And if their way out is sports, then I want it to be that avenue. And what I mean by way out is not just out of the hood or the ghetto or poverty. It could be a way out of your house for 2 hours a day that the parents are giving me the responsibility of their child from 6 o'clock p.m. to 8 p.m. in their minds. And I take that time and I cherish it because I know that I have all of their attention. 9 times out of the 10, the kids that we get are fatherless homes
Mhm.
where the coach is the only father figure that they see 5 days a week. So I don't take that lightly. And even more so now that I lost my son, I take it a lot more serious.
Yes. Well, I do thank you for your service to the community, for your service to those boys, because I know we see them as our children, our future, but just the moms, and many of them are angry, and they're not really angry at the mothers. They're just angry because there isn't a male role model in their immediate environment with whom they can talk about guy things with.
Very,
The
very
boys
true.
don't, after a certain age, do not want to talk to their mom about certain things. I get that. And so
Very true.
they need to have a male role model. And often that happens with the coaches.
Yes.
So I do thank you. I bless you for your service, for your passion. And I do want to thank you and let you know the pain is there, but you're managing it quite well.
Uh, it's smoke and mirrors.
I
It's
know.
smoke and mirrors. I don't, and I told you in the beginning that I didn't think I would be a good candidate for this. And you were right that I think that I am. But I said that because I don't have a clear answer on how I deal with it every day.
No one does.
I don't,
No
I don't,
one does.
I wish that I could say, hey, I do this and it gets me through the day.
No one does.
I'd be lying if I tell you that I had a
No
regimen.
one does. It is not easy to lose a child,
Yeah.
you know, especially by those means, and it does not affect you. No, and anybody who would ask you to go on skipping through the tulips as if nothing happened, it doesn't happen. No
It
one
doesn't.
does.
It doesn't. It doesn't happen.
But you have the inner strength. What I want you to understand is you have the inner strength to get up and move. And what is it that gets you up every morning? How do you release some of that pain? What
But
gets you going?
did I have other kids?
That's correct.
And I don't know if it would be as doable as it is if I didn't.
Mhm.
I have to be there for them. It has completely taught me how to parent
Wonderful.
differently.
Good.
And I'm saddened that my first child had to be the sacrificial lamb for a better parent
Mhm.
in me and my
Mhm.
wife as well, I'm sure, but everything is completely changed.
Mhm. For the better.
Completely. I hope so. I think
Better.
that I'm a little bit more laxed. I don't take things as serious
Mhm.
anymore.
Mhm.
Everything's not a level 10 catastrophe when it comes to these kids and disciplining them and,
Yes.
or, who knocked over the milk at the breakfast table. And it's just not that serious anymore. I parent
Yes.
completely different, and I hope that I'm not a weakened parent, but
Mhm.
if so, then it is what it is. But I'm
You're a
completely
wiser parent.
much wiser, much wiser. It's hard to say, to even think that it took that.
Yes. But that's okay. It did. It did.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take away the pain, but it certainly helps you every day to recognize. You're able to recognize it. So many people, Jason, go
Yeah.
through it and still don't get to that point where they say, wow, I've learned this because of that.
And I want to share what I do. I think I do have an answer for you, and
Mhm.
what drives me to get up. And I'm gonna try to get to this statement without crying. I've been,
That's okay. Don't
yeah.
try too hard. It's okay.
But if, well, first of all, Jeremiah, in his time of death was approximated between 4:30 a.m. and 4:45 a.m. And I was the last person he texted. And what helps me is that it was positive, and he was thinking about good things.
Mhm.
Even though he took his life, in regards to sending his last message to me, it wasn't a oh woe is me moment. It wasn't anger or I can't do this anymore or I don't want to be here.
Mhm.
He just said, Dad, I love you and you changed my life.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that helps me every day.
Wow.
It wasn't any more or any less. That's exactly all
Wow.
he said. And he sent that message at 4:01 a.m.
And that tells you how much he cared and he loved you to send that message to you, the last thing, to let you know, Daddy, I'm not doing this because of you or you did anything wrong to me. And he was trying to give you a little grace to go through it.
So I carry
And
that with me every day.
wonderful, wonderful. I thank you so much, Jason.
You're
And I
welcome.
want to say to anyone who's listening to this, we have the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline on the screen. I want to encourage anyone at any time, wherever you are, if you're feeling that things are closing in on you, that you're becoming overwhelmed, that you're hopeless, you can't go on another day. Before you think of doing something permanent to alleviate a temporary situation, call that lifeline and speak to someone. There's always someone there really ready and willing to talk to you. Please use that number anytime and call it. Talk to someone. As someone said earlier, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Amen.
Before you make that permanent decision, call that lifeline. Just reach out. There's always someone there. Call someone you know, call a friend, call a buddy, call anyone you know who will talk to you before you make that final decision. Jason, I do thank you. I am grateful to you. I know this will help many dads, especially, as I said, African American dads, because I know they themselves carry so much pain, sometimes from their childhood, which makes it difficult for them to parent their children. That I know that there's something in here, many things you've said tonight that will definitely resound with them and will help them. You may think it wasn't a strategy, but just hearing you talk about it as a Black man means a lot to another, because you can speak to a brother more so than I can.
Amen. I
And
understand
so
that.
I do thank you for that.
And I thank you as well.
I thank God for you, Jason.
I thank God for you too, Veronica.
Have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.